Okay, so we're going to finish up with corrosion and electrolysis. So corrosion is, here's an example of corrosion, right? So the Statue of Liberty was once this golden or copper color, I should say. It was originally brown because of the copper that it's made of. And exposure to the elements resulted in this blue-green patina color that we see today. And this was due to corrosion, right? Isn't that so interesting to know that this was the original color of the Statue of Liberty? So what happens in corrosion, so this silver part here is, it can be an iron or steel surface that's then painted, which is shown as this purple layer here. And when corrosion happens due to, like, let's say the paint scratching, the iron can then be oxidized by the oxygen in the atmosphere, and then this electrons can travel to this cathodic or cathode site where water can essentially reduce the oxygen. The oxygen can be reduced to water. So this is an example of a galvanic cell that results, right, from corrosion that can happen on a surface like such as the Statue of Liberty or some other surface that has paint. So here is our cell notation for this galvanic cell, where iron is oxidized to iron 2 plus, and then we have oxygen being reduced to water. And in both cases, iron is acting as both the anode and the cathode. All right, so electrolysis, there's an external circuit that does work on a non-spontaneous redox system. So there's a sufficient voltage or external work or source that's needed to be put into this external circuit to drive the process. So if we compare it to a galvanic cell, right? Galvanic cells they involve a spontaneous redox process, unlike non-spontaneous redox process in electrolytic cells. Because in a galvanic cell we have a spontaneous redox process, work is done by this redox system on the surroundings, whereas the reverse is true for electrolytic cells, where some voltage or external circuit does work on the redox system. So this is the main thing I want you to know, is just the difference between galvanic and electrolytic cells. So let's look at an example or a couple examples of electrolysis. So here's an electrolytic cell, and this is an example of a cell that's used for what's called the Downs process, which produces sodium and chlorine. Sodium and chlorine. So you have a cell with molten sodium chloride, and electrolysis of this molten sodium chloride results in production of sodium and chloride ions. Here's another example. We have another electrolytic cell that can be used for the silver plating of eating utensils. The silver plating. So the spoon is acting as the cathode, and the electrolysis process results in the silver ions basically being reduced to solid silver to plate the spoon. So again, the main difference, I want you to just understand how electrolysis compares to, or electrolytic cells compare to galvanic cells. All right, so we're going to pause here, and this concludes our section on electrochemistry.